Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we're going to make my tea bag stash holder. I like drinking tea all year, and I thought it was about time that I have my own tea bag holder, and that's what this is here. It's laser cut plywood, 6 millimeters or 1/4 inch, and it's 3 different scrap pieces of plywood. So it's actually 3 different types of plywood that I use to make this with. Again, everything I show for CNCKing.com for my personal use is always done using scraps. And in this case here, I had, some various pieces of plywood laying around the shop, so I decided to make something useful out of it. Now this is a design here, as you can see. You have a lot of different coves, so you can put different kinds of tea in different sections of it. But I made holes all the way through in the design on purpose, just because I wanted to give it a little bit more airy sort of feel to it. Now if you notice, there's a hinge, and the hinge has no hardware. It's actually integrated into the design, as you can see. So my background is actually designing hundreds of custom kids' toys and other items out of plywood. So making something like this is pretty straightforward and easy for me. Now the first step after designing something like this is actually to make a 3D animation, which I'll show you next. It shows how all the pieces come together, and that's where I double check all the design features of this tea bag holder. So compared to most of the stuff that I made out of plywood, this is a really simple design, and it's very effective. And that's what I like about making custom designed items, is that I can optimize their whole reason for being for a specific purpose. In this case here, as you can see, the hinge will never fall out, and it will never wear out because this is really nice strong plywood. And it also closes flush, which is something that's important because you don't want dust and stuff getting into your tea bags. Now this is plywood, and it's not live edge wood, which means it does have a couple of chemicals in it that make it together, but I'm not worried about that because most of that dissipates during the production process. If you notice on the back here, you can see how the parts all interlock into one another, and you can also see the bottom. Now this here actually corresponds with this. So it's an incredibly strong box, and I'm positive I could stand on this and not break it. And that's pretty astounding considering it's just regular plywood. And it's definitely not the best quality plywood either. Now the next step after doing the whole design process is actually cutting it out and seeing how it all comes together. Now you might be wondering, because I used the laser to cut this out, can I have cut it out using my CNC router? And the answer to that is absolutely. And the only design changes that I would have to make to it would be to add dog bones or small little sections, because you can't make a square inner corner using a round CNC router bit. So a dog bone would be like something like this here, just so it inserts properly. I also could have made this out of stainless steel if I wanted to, but you know, I got a lot of other projects on the go right now. So the most efficient process for me to make this box out of was using the industrial laser behind me here. Now after cutting out all the parts, the next step is to assemble it. And the reason why you don't see too much smoke over the whole process is because if you notice here, in here, there's absolutely no smoke, and that's because of the masking. I masked all the plywood, although I don't need to, just for personal use. And that's just so I don't have any smoke showing. But I didn't mask the top of it when I was doing the laser engraving. And the reason for that is because, again, I just want to show a laser did it for the video. Now generally for glue, when it comes to making something like this, it generally takes about 24 hours to really set in and be totally strong. But you can't count on just glue. You want to make sure you have a very good design so that everything interlocks into everything else. And that means that even if you have some section without enough glue or what have you, there's no way this is breaking apart on you. And again, you can see The overall design is very simple, but it's very strong. So I'm not breaking this ever. Now the next step for me was to do laser engrave the top of it, as you can see here. So it's my T-stash. For that I didn't mask it because I couldn't be bothered. It doesn't really matter to me. It's for my personal use. But the nice thing about lasers is that if you go faster over an area, it doesn't cut through it, it just engraves the surface of it, and that's the difference. So technically I could have just gone very slow with the laser beam and cut this out, but I wanted to have a solid top for use and just to keep contaminants away. So if you have a custom plywood project that you'd like to have somebody design for you and fabricate and ship right to your door, contact me at CNCKing.com. We can work with any material, wood through stainless steel, through live edge to plastic. We can do it on any scale that you want. If you want something massive, we can make that just as easy as something small. And we can also do them in any kind of volume. So if you want one of these T-stashes like this here, or you want 1,000 of them, I have the equipment here in the shop to make them for you.